Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ajiro Tech. Ajiro Tech. In this video, you're going to be learning. I know some students tell me that the moment they see the screen, they already know because it's different, right? So in this video, you're going to be learning the Cambridge IGCSE Information and Communication Technology, which is ICT, and we're looking at paper one theory, right? May, June 2026, and we're looking at the first variant. I know, I know, and I don't know if it's a fact check, but numerous students have said, Mr. Joe, you are the best YouTube channel when it comes to ICT theory. There is no second place. You are undisputed. I'm like, really? That's how we have searched. Most students who have come to our YouTube channel came to theory because that's what we do. Going to the teaching theory simply means you have to read to the textbook from chapter 1, which is types and components of the computer system, to chapter 21, which is website authoring. You have to read it, and you have to explain it, and you have to write it. And you don't have it barely on other, maybe it is, but love successor, you're undisputed. Well, I'm privileged to be called that. I don't take it for granted. I don't. It's not a trophy for me, but it's just to let you know the impact that this YouTube channel has been making to thousands of students across continent. It begins by you, if you're new here, subscribing to our YouTube channel. So subscribe to our YouTube channel using this link. And if you have not joined our student community platform, you're missing out. So scan this QR code to be part of it, or you can use this link or this link to be a part of it. So welcome to IGCSE ICT class. Yay! Yay! I'm happy. This is me being happy. This is me dancing. I'm I'm dancing. Yay! Okay. There we go. All right. If you have not joined or you're having any issue with any subject, well, I'm going to implore you to. We are registered, right? We're registered educational platform right here in the United Kingdom. So be part of us. You don't have to go through that examination stress alone. We're right here to guide you through the process in any subject you're having issues with. And this is why we said, come on board, enroll into our private tuition platform. You can visit our website. It's right here. So just Ajiro Tech, ajirotech.com. Yeah, you can visit our website, just ajirotech.com, right? So just Ajiro Tech here, then add.com. That's the link to our website. So visit our website to see what we do. The amazing ton of resources that you get when you're part of us. Okay? Whether it's Cambridge, whether it's EdXL, AQA, or OCL. The combo plan still remains for ICT. It is a teacher's toolkit, so please take note of that. It is a teacher's toolkit, and this is what is included here. So please take note. It's meant for teachers only, and this is to make the work for teachers very seamless and very easy. All right. We also have for the ICT combo plan, the ASIT combo plan, going for 180, 160 rather, right? 160, although there will be a little discount on this, right? So if you're a teacher teaching ICT and IT together and you want to come for both the combo plan, there is a special discount we give to you at the end of the day, right? We give you a special discount because we know what it feels like. Okay, so this is what is included for the ASIT combo plan. So you can visit our website, ajirotech.com, right? You can visit our website as well, ajirotech.com, and to get more information on this, and then you can request it to the website, and you can get yourself a copy of this. It is a teacher's toolkit. It's meant to make your work easy. I've poured my heart into this. So, right, get a copy of it and see how it transforms your teaching. I mean, teachers who have gotten it can testify the beauty of this. I mean, imagine being a teacher and you have everything done for you. It's not laziness. It creates you time to be effective in being productive in your classroom. And that's what we do here, right? All right. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Let's get to work. Let's get to work. So let me zoom this. Question one. State the health issues that is presented by each of the following. Health issues. That's chapter 5. Your answers must be different using an ergonomic keyboard. Your answer must be different, sorry. Your answer must be different. Okay, right? That is prevented by each of the following. Okay, all right. So health issues, you see that in chapter 5. And if you're new here, what we try to do here is to map out each questions and where you can find it in the textbook. So you can read more on it. And I get to explain the little I can for you. Right? So you see chapter 5, the effect of using IT. And under the effect of using IT, you see it in potential health problems related to the prolonged use of IT equipment. Okay, that's what you see it. You see it on, right? Now let's look at this. Let's say using an ergonomic keyboard. Now, when you're using an ergonomic keyboard, remember what causes, they said that is prevented by each of the following. Now, when you're using an ergonomic keyboard, what is the cause? Let's say that what's the cause we're using an ergonomic keyboard, right? There's what we call the ROSI, which means what? Repetitive strain injury, right? So when we talk about the repetitive strain injury, we're simply saying that is prevented, state the health issues that's prevented by each. Okay. So the health issue that is prevented using an ergonomic keyboard is for RSI. Let me put it here. The RSI. And which is the repetitive strain injury. Let me just put it here. Repetitive strain injury. Now, the RSI is is an injury to the fingers or wrist or other part of the body that is caused by repeated movement over a long period, such as the use of what? The continuous keyboard, or the repeated clicking of a mouse. That's what RSI is, in summary. So the ergonomic keyboard, right, is designed to make the user's hands and wrist position more naturally, more natural and comfortable, right? So this would help us to reduce, right, unnecessary strain on the hands and risk, and would therefore help reduce the risk of RSI. So that is the reason why for ergonomic keyboard we are going with what? RXI. Ergonomic chair. We have what? The back and neck strain. Now, what do you mean by the back and neck strain? Now, when you are sitting incorrectly, right, for a long period, that can place an excessive strain on the back and neck. Like right now, I'm currently sitting, and in my chair, I have a kind of like a pillow, right, so that it can be a little bit comfortable. I don't have to, because I sit a lot while walking. I've done the ASIT, the 3 variants. I spent close to 17 hours for the 3 variants. A total of 17 hours to do that video. And I'm sitting for 17 hours, not 17 on the stretch, no, but for 3 days. So that's liking that I spent, 6 hours or 5 hours on each of those recording to do one video. So I need to, sometimes I stood up, I walked around, and I came back. To most of you are seeing 3 hours, maybe 4 hours there. Those other parts were cut because I had to walk around, rest a little bit, and come back to do the recording. You don't know the things we go through when we are doing recording, mashallah. We go through a lot. We go through a lot when we are doing recording. We go through a lot so that you can be able to understand. Okay? So when we are now using an ergonomic chair, when we are using an ergonomic chair, right? These chairs can be adjusted to provide better support and encourage a more appropriate sitting position, right? And this can help to reduce the strain that is caused by what? You sitting down in front of the computer for a long period of time, right? Because this back and neck strain is caused by what? When you are sitting in front of a computer for a long period of time, right? And using this ergonomic chair will definitely what? Help you. Making sure the computer screen is free from dust and dirt. So that is caused by what? It's caused by an eye strain. An eye strain. Okay, so it's free from dust and dirt. Now, a dirty screen can make the display information more difficult to see clearly, right? Your screen is dirty. So the user can then have to concentrate or strain their eyes when looking at the screen, right? So this can contribute to eye strain. And of course, when you combine it with the prolonged computer use, okay? So take note. You can also talk about headache, because when you are making sure the computer screen is free from dust, headache can also be part of it if you want to add headache to it. So yeah, using an anti-glare computer screen. So these are remember, all these things are the solution to the issues. That's what they're talking about. When we need to state the health issues that can be prevented by each of these following. What is this preventing for? So using an anti-glare computer screen, it is headache or eye strain. Now, because we have put eye strain, they said your answer must be different. We can't put eye strain here. So I'm going to go with what? I'm going to go with what? Headache. Now, glare and reflection from a computer screen can make it harder for the user to see the information clearly. Imagine you're using your computer and there's sun reflecting on your computer. It makes it difficult, right? So any glare or reflection makes it difficult. So the user may have to, squint or continually what adjust their eyes to compensate. Now this can lead to eye strain or can lead to what? To headache. So take note. So an anti-glare screen reduces that reflection from surrounding what? Light what? Source, and it can therefore what? Help you reduce these problems. So that is what we have said in a nutshell. So that's just what it is. So take note of that, right? So let me see. I'll just put this in a nutshell for you. So for RSI, is the damage or injury to the fingers or other parts, to the fingers or risk. Just put that finger or risk caused by repeated movement over a long period, such as continuous keyboard use or repeated clicking of a mouse. The back and neck strain is when you're what? It's when you're sitting incorrectly for long periods, which can produce excessive strain on the back and neck. Okay. So for the eye strain, this is when you're straining your eyes, right? You're looking at the computer for a long period of time, and headache talks about when there's when the screen is flickering and you're using that particular what computer. Okay. Desktop computers can be used for office work. Now, this is what chapter 1, types and components of computer systems. I'll put this here. And you see this under types of computer. No, we have two types: desktop computer and what? Mobile computers. Right? So now we're now exploring what? The desktop computer. Describe 4 characteristics of a desktop computer. Now let's talk about it. They said describe, command word there, describe. So we have the separate, because look at desktop computer now. You have monitor, keyboard. Please assume this is a keyboard. I beg of you, please. This is it has now been reduced to now a micro, a studio system unit like this. And this is your mouse. Maybe your speaker. So like I said, assume, right? Assume this is I know I'm terrible in drawing. Forgive me. Right? If I was good in drawing, I'll be doing D&T. Okay, so assume this is the component, right? The keyboard, mouse, system unit, the monitor, and the speaker. Just assume. So they have what? Separate. It has a separate monitor and keyboard, right? So that's the characteristics, because a desktop computer normally consists of what? Separate components, right? Such as what? Such as monitor, keyboard, mouse, system unit, etc. Unlike a laptop, right? They are just combined for laptops. They are just combined into what? One portable unit. Do you get that? For laptops, you're using a laptop right now to probably watch this. You see that it is combined into one what? You don't have them separate. Everything is just one. Okay. The next one is what? Easy to what? It is easy to customize, right? Let's talk about this. How is it easy to customize? Desktop computers are generally what? Easier to customize, upgrade, sorry, or what? Expand. For example, let's talk about example here. Example, we have RAM or backing storage, right? These things can often be replaced or upgraded more easily than in a laptop. You can easily upgrade it, right? More easily than what? In a laptop. Okay, the next one. Usually, another characteristics is usually higher processing specification. Okay. Now, for a similar price, a desktop computer will often have what? A higher specification. So, such as what? Such as a what? A faster processor. So it usually have a higher processing specification, right? One reason is this: larger physical size with desktop allow more space for what? For component and cooling. The next one, standardize connection. Standardized connections. Let me clean this so you can see it. Connections or hardware. Right? So desktop computers commonly use standardized what? Connection and hardware. Right? And this makes it easier to replace components or connect additional devices. So that is it. So it allows that standardized what? Connection, right? So you can replace components. You can even add, right, additional devices. For example, if you're, you can always replace your NIC, add another one, make it two, and it can go on, right? So this is very important. Now, in conclusion to what I said, let me put down a note. A desktop, in conclusion, in conclusion, a desktop is essentially designed around performance, expandability, and fixed location. Because you can't carry it like a desktop up and down. No, right? Whereas a laptop is designed much more around what? Portability. So take note of that. Okay. I think we have done justice to this. All right, alhamdulillah. Let's move on. Are we learning? Let me know in the comment section if you're learning. MashaAllah. Let me know. Are you learning? Okay. All right, let's move ahead. Let's go on. Okay, let's go. Let's go on. A motherboard is one of the internal components of a desktop computer. You know, when we're talking about hardware, under hardware, we're talking about the internal component and the external component. You see it at the very beginning of your textbook. Internal component, I would say the internal component are the ones that are found inside, and the external are the ones that is found outside. Okay. Explain what is meant by a motherboard. So this is chapter 1. Types and components of computer system. Okay. Now you will see this. You will see this where this they talk about explanation under the main component. Of computer system. That's where you're going to see it. Right? Now, let's explain what is meant by a motherboard. A motherboard is the main printed circuit board the main printed circuit board inside a computer. Now, if you look at the key things I've said, I've talked about is a printed what? Circuit board. So take note of that. That is what a motherboard is. Every other thing rests on it. Right? Every other thing rests on it. Now, when it comes to answering theory, should I answer in bullet points or should I write about it? Now, I've talked about in the past, you can put it in bullet point. Yes, you can put it in bullet points. You can also put it in essay form. When we are marking, we pick the key points. Now, take note, if you write so many things and it's a two marker, we would pick the first paragraph and then we'll discard the rest. This is the reason why we said put them in points and it's easy for you. But if you want to put it in essay, we're not going to read all through. We pick the one that ends in full stop. I assume that is it. So you need to know how these things are done. Okay? So please know that. The reason why I'm using the essay form here is because I want to explain in detailed. I want to go into detail explanation for you. Right? Because most students they use it for study. And that's the reason why I'm going in detail for you. Okay. So it's a main printed circuit board inside a computer. Right? Now, the next thing you need to look at is, so this is one point, if you want to put that, then it provides, another point, it provides the connection. Provide the connections between the major internal components. So anyone you want to write, points or essay, it will be marked. That's a summary, right? So it provides the connection between the major internal components, allowing components such as the CPU, RAM, and other hardware to communicate and work together. So that's what it is, right? So it provides that connection. Let me use red here. To provide that connection between the major internal components, align components such as this to communicate. So these are the key terms here. To communicate and work together. Okay. Why is this important? I want you to think of the motherboard as the main electronic platform of the computer. Any computer, it is the main electronic platform. The CPU cannot simply operate independently. It needs to communicate with memory. It needs to communicate with other components. The motherboard provides that physical. Let me write this down for you. Let me write this down for you. I can hear somebody say, sir, please write it, write it, write it, write it, write it. Why is the motherboard important? The motherboard is the main electronic platform of the computer. That is the printed circuit board, the main electronic platform of the computer. The CPU cannot simply operate independently. It needs to communicate with memory and other components. The motherboard provides the physical electrical connections. And pathways that allow these components to interact. That's what I said. So the CPU cannot work on its own, right? The CPU needs to interact with the memory, right? It needs to interact with other components. So the motherboard now provides that physical electronic connection and pathway that allows these components to what? To interact. Very important. Members of a village council are planning to share a series of events. They could either produce a leaflet that is sent to all the households in the village or create a website to publish the event. That's looking like chapter 6. Okay. They said one characteristic of a website is that it can use audio, describe three other characteristics of a website that will make it what? Suitable. Three other characteristics of a website. So it can use audio. So three other characteristics of a website that would make it suitable option for this task. Now, websites, you will see it in chapter 6, ICT application, under communications. And you also see this in under effective use of the internet. When we're using the internet, you see things discussed on website. But I'm going to go with chapter 6. So chapter 6, ICT applications. And you see it under communication. It's one of the application. Now, they said it can use what? Audio. The website can use audio. Three other characteristics. If you go to our website, Ajiro Tech, you can just go to our website, Ajiro Tech, and then tell me what the things that the website can, what the website actually contains. So it can contain audio. It can also what? Contain what? Text. It can contain text, right? Because a website can contain written text describing. We have to link it to the question. The village event. So when you have scenarios like this, you must link into that scenario. Village event. And for example, we have what? It could give the name of each event, the date, the time, the location, and even instructions. for attending. That means resident can obtain a much more detailed information that might reasonably, right, um, that they're able to obtain much more information that will not be able to fit on a simple what leaflet. Okay. The next one can contain. Let me write it well. Can contain images or photos, right? So a website can contain what? Images or what? Photographs. Images and photographs. For example, photographs from previous village events could be included to make the website more attractive and give what? Residents an idea of what to expect. So images can also make information easier to understand. That's what we are trying to say. Images can make information easier to understand. Okay. All right. The next one. It can contain links to other relevant websites. For example, a village event could link to a venue website, a transport website, so they can pay for their transport. It could link to a map, a Google map or Apple map. It could also link to an external registration page, Microsoft form, Google form. So this, full stop, this This gives residents quick access to additional information without having to search for it themselves. Okay, so take note of that, right? And another characteristics you could put of a website is easier to update, right? Take note, because students will ask this question, sir, why this explanation? Look at what they said. They said describe, they didn't say identify. So just giving only this can contain text, can contain image, or is too shallow. Right? So take note of that. So it's easier to update. Why? So if there are new events, the website can simply put it up. If that event is over, the website can take it out. Unlike a leaflet, if there's a new event, you have to print again. But with the website, you just have to update. And for a website, it is less likely to be lost. A leaflet they can misplace it and they will forget about the event. But a website, you cannot be able to do that. You just go to the website and you have that information there. With leaflet, you can be restricted on the amount of information you have to put there. It doesn't look like a Word document, right? But the website, there's no restriction on the amount of information you can put there. Are we learning? Okay. Are we learning? All right.
A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the EdExcel and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have um, the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about, and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable, and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, um, and also for the EdExcel. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and EdExcel E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level, mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at agile@gmail.com and they'll reply to you.
The member of the village council have decided to create a copy of the leaflet. Okay, they have choose that and send it out via email. They plan to create an email group using email addresses sent to them from the villagers. What's an email group? A name given to a group of what? Email addresses. So, for example, you have grade 10 and it contains all the students, right? Grade 11, it will contain all the students. So, instead of sending the email address to just one person, you can put them, give it a name, and when you put the name on the toe, everybody is going to receive that email. One of the constraints is that the email addresses needs to be kept confidential. Now, they said apart from keeping an email address confidential, explain the other constraint of using an email group. So this is chapter 10, communication. And you see this under what? Communication with other ICT users. Using email, right? And then you can look for it in email group. And then we're also looking here at BCC as well, right? Talking about the laws and constraints. At BCC here. Okay. So what are other constraints apart from confidential? Another constraint here is the constraint of using an email group, because confidential with an email group is not confidential. Everybody will see that you can see other people there as well, right? So we have users, users need to opt in. What do you mean by that? People should generally choose to join or receive messages from the email group. So the village council the village council should not simply add people's email addresses and send them messages without appropriate permission. right? And why are we saying this? Right? This is particularly important because email communication can become unwanted or spam like when you are sending messages again and again. If recipients have not agreed to receive it. Another one, there should be an option to opt out. There should be a way should be a way for a recipient to leave the email group, or stop receiving the messages, disrespect the recipient's what? Choice, and prevents the group from becoming an unwanted source of what? Email. Another constraint is that email addresses need to be kept or need to be checked regularly. And why are we saying it? The email addresses in the group need to be kept up to date. For example, a resident may change their email address. So they change their email address, what happens? You'll not be receiving the message, right? Or even stop an old account. So if addresses are not checked, Messages what? May fail to reach the intended what? Recipient. Okay. What is this? How many they say? Okay. This is 4 marks, right? So I've talked about 3. Okay. So another one. The size of the group or emails may be limited. And what do we mean by that? There may be a limit on the number of people in the email group. Or a file size limit when sending attachment to many recipients. For example, you remember they are sending a leaflet by email. For example, if the leaflet is attached to the email, the total message will become large. So that's another constraint. So we're looking at the file size or even the limit to adding people to that what group. Even managing a large group, right? If the numbers of villagers become very large, the group can become more difficult to manage. Addresses needs to be added, removed, or corrected what regularly. So that is it. So I hope with this I've been able to explain that. Okay. Personal data relating to individual is stored on a computer. The file contains the following fields: name, address, telephone number, email address, age if under 18. For each of these fields, write down one reason why this data needs to be kept what? Confidential. This is what? Chapter 8, safety and security. Safety and security. You are going to see this as what? In e-safety. Under e-safety, you see it in personal data. Okay. Now, why should a name be kept confidential? Right? It can identify the person and could potentially be used for identity theft. Now, it's important for you to note the person's name by itself may not be sufficient to steal the identity, but when you combine it with other personal information, it can help someone impersonate or even identify them. Address. So for address, right, it needs to be kept confidential, right, so that other people cannot find out where the persons live. Now, if an address is were publicly available, it could potentially allow someone to locate or visit the person's home, including for malicious purposes such as theft. So take note. Let me put it down. I hope it's let me put it down. If I said an address were publicly available, it could potentially allow someone to locate or visit the person's home, including for malicious purposes, such as what? Theft. Imagine if all your favorite celebrities, I know, you can just search and you see the addresses of their home. You pay them a visit. Oh, mashallah, you pay them a visit. Okay. You don't know who is that? I'm your fans. Come on, come on. Right? All right. Okay. So the reasons why it has to be also be kept confidential is also to prevent people from knowing where you live, right? So cannot find out where you live. So that's why it has to be kept confidential. Telephone number. Why it needs to be kept confidential? So that it prevents unwanted people from contacting the person, including for scams, smishing, that's SMS phishing, or abusive calls. Right? A criminal could use a criminal could use that telephone number to send fraudulent text messages attempting to obtain passwords or financial information. I will use this point to tell you, don't put your number on the internet. Don't. Can you hear me? Are you hearing me? Don't put your telephone number on the internet. No. I know most of you probably be on social groups, or you're in this particular platform, on this platform. Don't give out your number on the internet. Don't do that. If you want to, if you must, maybe your email. And that email must be a maxed email, not your real email. Not an email that has your name on it. If you must, I don't advise, as your teacher, as your tutor, I would never advise you to put your telephone. You're going to get unwanted calls. People are not supposed to call you. The number we have on the internet is our business number. It's not my personal number, it's the business number. So you can reach the business. Sometimes you're chatting with me or other people. So any message you send on our WhatsApp, myself, other staff members working on the sales team, I also send the messages. So it's not a personal message. No, it's not. No. It's not. Huh? Okay. Age if under 18. So the person's age will be protected because it could reveal that the person is a minor or is a child, right? Potentially making them more vulnerable to inappropriate contacts or harm, etc. Right? So that's the reason why it needs to be kept appropriate, right? It's right because it could reveal that the person what is a child. Okay, so take note. Now, the key takeaway to all this, to what we have said, is that when it comes to personal data, right, personal data needs to be protected because it can identify. Let me write it down. Personal data must be protected because it can identify a living person, right? It can identify what? A living person. Or even combine with other information to identify them or even harm them. Okay. Are we learning? When a new system is planned, a system specification is written. Describe what is meant by system specification. Now, this is the first time that I'm seeing this. The first time I'm seeing this. You see this in chapter 7. The system's life cycle. Under this, you see it under analysis. Then we have analysis, design, right? Development and testing, implementation, documentation, and what evaluation. So under analysis, you will see this, right? So when we talk about the analysis stage, it identifies the requirement for the new system, and it leads to what? Specification of what? Hardware and software what? Required. So I say describe what is meant by what? System specification. Now look at what they said. When a new system is planned, a system specification is what? Is required or is written. So describe what is meant by system what specification. So a system specification system specification is a description of what the proposed system needs to do and the requirements that the system must meet. So that's what the system specification is all about. Is a description of what specification, what you are specifying of what is a description of what the proposed system needs to do and the requirement the system must meet. That's why if you're looking at analysis, you will see that we have what the um analyzing, okay, making your researching the current system. You are looking at input and output, what processes takes place, um, hardware. You look at information system, user requirement, and then specification of what hardware and what software. So we talk about a system. Is that description of what the proposed system needs to do and the requirements that the system must meet. So it helps to identify. It identifies the requirements of the system so that the development team knows what needs to be what needs to be created. So the specification would provide a clear target for the new system, right? So whenever a new system is planned, the system specification is now written on what has been planned. That's why the description of what that proposed system, right? This is now for a system analyst, right? Anytime they want to upgrade, what are you looking at? Hardware is obsolete. There's a new software. So those things, there have to be a description of that proposed system, what that system needs to do, and what do we need to ensure that that system meets up with that requirement. So it must identify with the requirement so that the development team needs to know what to do and what needs to be created. So you have example here. So for example, it may identify okay, may identify, let me put it here, what the system must do, what inputs are required, what outputs are required. I will also look at the hardware requirements, then software requirements, and then we have other what? Other limitations can also be looked at. After the system has been completed, technical documentation is produced. State the purpose of a technical documentation. So we are still looking at chapter 7. The system life cycle. And under this, we're looking at what? Documentation. Right? Under documentation, we have user documentation and technical documentation. State the purpose of Technical documentation. So technical documentation is produced for programmers, analysts, and other what? Technical staff, so that they can make improvements to the system or repair and maintain it. So that's the purpose of technical documentation. So yeah, you see that it is for what programmers done, right? So they can make improvements done to a system and what maintain it. So you can see that. So that is just what technical documentation is. It's designed to help the programmers or system analysts to make improvement or maintain the system. Now, it's important that you don't confuse technical documentation with user documentation, right? Because why technical documentation is for the people who develop, modify, or maintain the system. User documentation is for the people who use the system. That's what they are. That's what that documentation is for. It's people who is the day-to-day users. You don't need any complexity or learn anything. It's for those who are going to use the system. User documentation. Okay. Are we good? All right. There are three items that could be found in technical documentation. Now, when they ask questions like this, if you put things on that relates to user documentation, would they mark you wrong? No, they won't mark you wrong. As long as they are found on what? Technical documentation. Right? If they said that is found only in technical documentation but not in user documentation, you now know, okay, you have to give only the technical part. Okay. So this is what teach chapter 7. The systems what? Life cycle. Okay. So under this, we're looking at what? It's still documentation. It's still documentation. And then we're looking at the technical part of it. So this is it here. So let's look at, let me go with the technical part. Program listing. The program you are going to use for it. Programs you are going to use for it. Or the program codes, whichever one. Then programming language use. Programming language used. Program flowchart. or algorithm. Right? So other ones, I want to put for others, there are a lot of them. You have things like validation rules. You have things like system flowcharts, and put things like purpose of the system is for both of them. Purpose of the system, list of variables, only for technical. Input format, output format, and all that, right? Meaning of error message. So you can go on and put all those things there. Another way to remember technical documentation is this. If another programmer had to take over this system tomorrow, what information would they need? That's how to remember technical documentation. Elon Musk bought Twitter, which is now X. Now, when he bought it, what did they need from the founder? All the documentation he used in creating this. So if there's no documentation, guess what will happen? Do you think the owner is able to sell? Because he had company, he had structure, he had all those things. If you don't have all these documents and people want to buy your company, they'll buy it at a very, very low price. You are not going to even like where they're going to buy it. And you'll be like, after all the years, you had nothing put down. There was no documentation. In Ajiro Tech website, we have documentations on the phases on how the website was built. It's there. I have all the documentation for it at every phases on how it was built. Okay. All right. An author has written a large document and is storing it in the cloud. The document contains many pages of text, images, and diagrams. When the document is transmitted to the cloud over the internet, it needs to be protected. One way of protecting document is to use secure socket layer. Describe the characteristics of secure socket layer. Now, there are two places you can see this one. Chapter 8 was talked about it under prevention of data, protection of data, and then chapter 10, communications. So you can choose. In fact, it was just copy and paste. It was there in chapter 8, safety and security. Under safety and security, look at security of data and then protection of data. You see there. And then for chapter 10, you probably see it under what talking about maybe at the internet protocol, where you have the HTTP, FTP, you have SSL. So you can see I'm reading. You have to read. If I can sit down and read, you have to read. And reading is fun. Reading is fun. Some students pay for me to, I had a student that paid for me to explain the textbook. So I have read everything explained. So, right? Reading is fun when you have somebody to guide you and show you the pathway of reading effectively. Okay? All right. You don't have to go through it yourself. That's why we're here. Okay, so you see it. So choose chapter 8 or chapter 10. Which are we putting? Your choice. I've given you where you can find it. So I'll just put chapter 8 since it came first, right? Safety and security. And then under safety and security, see it was security of data. Okay. Under security of data, you see it under protection of data. Then you see SSL there. Or chapter 10. So, or chapter 10. Communication. So your choice, right? Your choice. I will just go with chapter 8. So if both of them is fine. Both of them is fine. So now the first thing we need to look at is what's even SSL? What's SSL? Now, SSL is a protocol that allows data to be transmitted securely over the internet. That's what SSL is all about. That allows that to be transmitted securely. And that's what this person, this author is looking for. Okay. So when SSL is used, the data that is being transmitted is encrypted, right? So that unauthorized person who intercept the communication cannot simply understand the information. That is why SSL encrypts the data sent between a user computer and what? The web server. Okay. So this characteristic of what? Secure socket what? Layer. So the first one here is what encrypts transmitted data, right? So the SSL encrypts the data being sent across the internet, right? So, for example, like relating it back to the author, right? When the author large document is uploaded to the cloud, the information is protected. So what? So example, when the it author has written a large, okay, when the author's large document is uploaded to what? To cloud storage. The transmitted information is protected so that an attacker who intercepts it cannot simply Read the content. The next one is helps prevent hackers understanding intercepted data. So because the information is encrypted, a hacker who intercepts the transmission should not be able to understand the original information without the appropriate means of decrypting. Decrypting it, which will provide another layer of what? Protection. The next one is what? Authentication. SSL uses certificates to help establish that the website is the one it claims to be. So this helps ensure that communication is taking place with the intended recipient rather than an impostor. The next one is helps maintain data integrity, right? So SSL helps ensure that the data has not been tampered, has not been tampered with or altered during what? Transmission. Okay. So it's not about hiding the content. It also ensures that the communication has not been interfered with. All right. Are we learning? The document is stored in a file that needs to be compressed before. That's chapter 11. It is stored in the cloud. That's chapter 4. Explain what is meant by file compression. So that's chapter 11. Chapter 11. File management. And then you see it in reducing or reduce file what? Sizes for storage or transmission. What's a file compression? When you compress your files, you know when they send you these source files, right? That's file compression. And you now have to extract it, paper 2 and paper 3. You have to extract the source file. That's file compression. So you can send that file as one, despite having so many files inside of it. So that file has been compressed. That's what we mean. So a file compression is the process of reducing the amount of storage space required by a file, right? So we can see that a compressed file therefore has a smaller file size than the original. And this can also make transmission over a network faster because fewer bits need to be what? Transmitted. Describe how the file is compressed. So this is what? Chapter 11. File management. Okay. Describe how the file is compressed. Now, we have, okay, that's AS, right? We have lossy and lossless. So I'm not going to talk about that, right? I'll just go direct. So describe how the file is compressed because that's above your syllabus. So how is the file compressed, right? You are going, the first thing it does is going to scan. So it scans the file for repeated pattern. of data, then replaces those repeated patterns with what? Unique identifiers, which requires less storage space. And when this file is decompressed, so take notes. So notes when the file is decompressed, those identifiers can be used to reconstruct the original repeated data. So instead of storing the repeated sequence, right, many times, the compression process can record repeated patterns once and use a shorter representation to indicate that it occurs what? Repeatedly, right? Okay. Circle 2 file compression format. So this is also chapter 11. File management. Two compression formats. So that's this .zip and .rar. This is image, image, style sheet, which is a text, is a style sheet. This is a text file, comma separated value. This is a text file. So that's it. This is image, image, image. This means graphical interchange format, portable document format, portable network graphics, comma separated value, which is a text file, cascading style sheet for web authoring, likely to be a text file, ROTF, but not the main text file. So is a style sheet. ROTF, which is rich text format, which is a type of text file. Okay, so that's it. Tower Technology has produced a new tablet computer. Tower Technology is planning presentation to show its customers and brief its sales team. State the difference in presentation for each audience. That's chapter 9. And when I say state for each audience, I know that's chapter 9. So chapter 9, audiences. And then you see this under what? Audience appreciation. Okay. And if you go forward again, you're able to see giving a presentation to an audience. You see that there. Now let's look at it. I said state the difference in presentation for each audience. So let's talk about presentation for customers. Should we divide it? Let's divide it. Let's divide it. Mm-hmm. So I'll come here now. Use this pen. So let's look at it. So we have what? Presentation for customers. So we have content. Yeah, give me for customers. The content should focus on features. What can it do? Right? Because customers, I'm giving you sales tips. Tips. Customers are interested in what the tablet can do for them. So let's know the features. So when you are making that presentation, so the presentation should what? Should explain features such as battery life, storage, camera, applications, screen quality, etc. So this focus should be on how it can benefit the user. The next one after this that customer like is show the cost. Right? Customers are likely to want to know how much the tablet cost. Price is an important factor. When customer is deciding whether to purchase a product, price. As at the time of this recording, the iPhone 18 will be out next month, September, just a few days from now. And it's expensive. It's expensive. And they are going to make a presentation for us. We are waiting for that presentation to know why it is that price. Do you see that? So that's the presentation for customers. What Apple does, if you go on their page, is a presentation. Every time they want to launch a product, they will do a presentation for you first to entice you. Be like, wow, I must get it without minding your pocket. without minding your pocket. Hmm. Hmm. Right? Okay. The next one. Use friendly, accessible language. The language should be relatively simple and customer friendly. So there's no need to fill the presentation with technical terminologies that ordinary customer may not understand. Don't confuse your customers. They won't buy you. You don't know customers. They won't buy. When you are done, you will clap. You will not have any sale. Customers. Hmm. Okay. Use multimedias. The presentation could make effective use of images, video, animation, and sound. So a video could demonstrate how the tablet works. Okay, let's move to the sales team. And this is my domain, sales team. Those presentations I used to have to the sales team. Are they doing the right thing? So let me share some things to you. Okay, presentation for the sales team. Okay, so number one, include more technical terms or technical facts. The sales team needs more detailed technical information because they need to understand the product properly in order to sell it. Number two, include profitability information. The sales team may need information about, example, expected profit, sales targets, Product margins, which products are more profitable. Number three, use professional language. The sales team has a different level of knowledge and a different purpose for viewing the presentation. So therefore, more technical and professional terminologies can be used. Number four, use more detailed text, chart, and statistics. The sales team need more detailed information and statistics rather than a presentation dominated by images. For example, a chart would compare product specification, sales figure, profitability. So, in a nutshell, what are we saying? We are saying that same product does not mean same presentation. Information, language, level of details, and your presentation style must be adapted to the audience knowledge, needs, and purpose. So take note of that. Our technology uses its corporate house style, that's chapter 14, in all of its correspondence. Explain why a corporate house style is important. So see that in chapter 14, styles. And under styles, you see it as what? Corporate what? House styles. So let's explain why a corporate house style is important. Now, let's try to explain this. What is a corporate house style? Let me put this for your note. A corporate house style is a consistent set of design and formatting features used by an organization across its document and other communications. So is a consistent set of design and formatting features used by an organization across its document. So it can include things like includes logo, color scheme, font, paragraph styles, page layout, formatting, even bullet styles. So why is it important? Consistent presentation. Why? Remember I said it's a consistent set of design. So all correspondence can have the same overall look and feel. So this gives the organization a professional look, a professional and organized look or appearance. Another one, support the company brand. A consistent logo, color scheme, and design helps customers recognize the company brand, right? So a customer may recognize a company from its color and logo before ever reading its name, right? The next one makes documents easier to edit. So if standard styles have already been defined. Employees do not need to what? Redesign every document from the beginning. This makes document creation and editing more efficient. Okay, helps customers recognize the company. So when customers repeatedly see the same house style, they can quickly associate the appearance with the organization. So, yes, programmers are developing a new gesture-based user interface, chapter 1, for again, evaluate the use of this interface. What about evaluate? I'm talking about both the positive, the benefit, the negative, and your conclusions. That's evaluate. So you see this in chapter 1. Types and components of computer system. And you will see this under operating system. So under the operating system, you are going to see what? From the operating system, you have what? The user interface. And then you can have this as one of the user interface, which is the gesture-based user interface. Other ones are command line, graphical user interface, and what? Can you tell me in the comment section? Dialogue. Thank you. Dialogue, 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 dialogue. So we are going to do this because there's a lot to write here. Let's look at this. Let me split here. Mm-hmm. This one. Let's look at this. What is a gesture-based user interface? Let's start with the definition first. A gesture-based, no, not read. A gesture-based user interface allows a user to interact with a computer by making physical movements or gesture rather than what? Relying on a traditional keyboard or mouse. So you are able to interact with the computer with no mechanical what devices. So you're using what parts of your body, right? You're using parts of your body. So example, move moving your hands or arms, right? etc. Now let's talk about the advantages. Okay, so the first one, it is what? Hand freeze. Hand freeze. What do you mean by that? The user does not need to hold a physical controller for every action. This can make the game feel, you have to relate it to that game. You need to develop a game, right? Feel more natural and immersive. Two, movements can directly control actions. The player can use their own movements to control what happens in the game. For example, moving an arm could cause an on-screen character to swing an object. So this creates what? This creates a direct relationship between the user's physical movement and the game action. The third one, it can provide a more enjoyable experience. So the player physically what participates in the game rather than simply pressing buttons. This can make the game feel more realistic, engaging, and fun. Let's look at disadvantages. The disadvantages, first one is what? Distance from the camera can affect it. The system may only work correctly when the player is within the appropriate distance from the camera. So if the player moves too far away, what is going to happen? The camera may not detect the gesture accurately. Number two, lighting can affect detection. Poor lighting can make it harder for the camera to detect the user's movement. Therefore, the environment in which the game is played can affect the accuracy of the interface. So if the lighting is not clear enough, that can affect. Number three, accidental movement. Can be detected. So a camera or sensor may detect an unintended movement as a command. For example, if the player moves their arm accidentally, the system could interpret it as a game instruction. Okay, the last one, some users may be physically unable to perform the gestures, right? Because a gesture based interface may not be suitable for every player because some users may have physical disabilities or limitations that make certain movement difficult. So, so in conclusion, my overall judgment to this, right? My overall judgment to this, because after doing advantage disadvantage, giving definition, you also have to give an overall judgment. So my final judgment, sorry, let me do that. Let me use green. Final judgment. A gesture based interface can make a game more natural interactive, and enjoyable. But its effectiveness depends on factors such as lighting, distance, accurate gesture, and users' physical ability. So I'm giving my judgment to this. So yes, so these are the things you have to do when you're faced with this. Okay.
A lot, and you're like, okay, do you have a private tuition? Don't you have? Do you have? And yes, Ajiro Tech do have a private tuition. So by my right, you can see that we have for the EdExcel and Cambridge IGCSE, and yes, we do have for all subjects. Okay, all subjects. Okay, the popular ones that's always been in demand is mathematics, English language as a second language. Okay, we have physics, we have biology, we have chemistry, and we have um, you know the flagship, which is ICT, just here and there. We also have business studies. So if you're interested for a private tuition, um, I think all you have to do is send an email to the sales team at ajirotech@gmail.com, and they would reply to you, talk about your time zone, talk about, and the fee is really quite affordable. Really, it's really quite affordable. It's when you look at it across um, other tutoring service, I think this is the one that's quite affordable, and you get the very best of service. We also have for the E levels as well, um, and also for the EdExcel. So we have for the Cambridge E levels and EdExcel E levels. Okay, and we have also across the subject mathematics, which is usually the hot cake when it comes to E level mathematics and chemistry, and then biology. These are usually one of the ones we have in demand always, all the time. Even physics, for E level. So all you have to do, if you're watching this right now and you are interested for a private tuition, then you can do yourself a solid, okay, and send an email to the sales team at agile@gmail.com, and they will reply to you.
The gesture-based user interface, we see a camera. We use a camera. We use a camera to impute the commands. Describe how what? How the camera is used with this system. So this is still chapter 1. Types and components of computer systems. Then it's still under user interface, right? So describe how the camera is used with this system. So the first thing is that the camera captures the movement of the user. That's one. Software records and analyze the movement. Computer vision is used to identify the gesture and compare it with known gestures so that the corresponding command can be carried out. So in simple terms, right? In simple terms, we are saying that the user moves, then camera captures movement movement. Then we have the software that analyzes it. And then we have the gesture is recognized. And then we have what? Command is executed. All right. A teacher is planning to set up a backup of the confidential data stored on her office computer. Discuss the reasons why the head teacher should use a portable solid state drive for our backup. So this is chapter 3. Chapter 3, storage devices and media. And under this, we are going to see that we are using what? The solid state and solid state media and solid state devices. So that's where you see it. You see it under the solid state media. And solid state storage devices. Now, she wants to use the portable SSD. So what's the reason? Let's start giving her the reason. So, first reason, the backup can be stored securely away from the computer. And we know this because the SSD is portable. So once the backup has been what? Created, it can be stored somewhere physically secured. So that's what we are saying. Okay. Another one, the head teacher retains control of the data. So with a physical SSD owned, owned by the head teacher, is notice I'm not using any she or he. I don't know whether so you can't do that. The head teacher retains direct control of the backup device and confidential information. Another one, three, is that SSD are robust. Can compare it to HDD. And SSD has no moving part, right? No moving mechanical parts. Let me just so that like a traditional magnetic hard disks. Therefore, it is generally more resistant to physical shock and movement. Especially when you're moving it between locations. Yes, I can add one more. Fast access and transfer. So the SSD storage has fast access time and transfer time. So therefore, creating the backup can be what? Relatively what? Quick. Restoring the data can also be quick. Okay. So SSD is faster. The head teacher uses cloud storage. Make up your mind. Is it SSD or cloud storage? Don't be moving us up and down. Make up your mind. Ah, the SSD or cloud storage, which one is it? Uh, Explain the drawbacks of using cloud storage for this backup. All right. So cloud storage is what? Chapter 4, networks and the effects of using them. So under this, you see it in network and then cloud computing. I know for cloud computing, we have three types: private, public, and hybrid. Yes. So what's the drawback? Loss of control. Because everything is stored in a remote server that you don't have the administrator, the administrator, the administrative privilege of, right? You're just buying storage. So loss of control. Where confidential data is stored in the cloud, the data is stored on servers controlled by the cloud provider. So the school therefore does not have the same physical control, right, over the data as it would the local storage what device. The next one is what? Third party access. The data is controlled by a third party cloud provider. So this creates an additional security consideration. Strategize is a job that relax, 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 relax. But the school has to trust the provider to protect confidential information. Right? So there's that risk of relinquishing control of data security to somebody else. So you have to trust. Can we trust that this iCloud, Google Drive, OneDrive, will they be able to store data without any loss? The next one is that requires a stable internet connection. So the data must be transmitted to and accessed from the cloud over the internet. So if the internet connection is slow or unavailable, what's going to happen? The head teacher may have difficulty uploading the backup, accessing the backup, or even restoring the file. Another one you should consider is that confidential data could be breached because the backup contains confidential information. If there's a security breach, it could expose the data. Hackers could gain unauthorized access to cloud account. It could gain access to cloud servers. Okay. A search engine uses artificial intelligence to help the user search for information on the internet. Discuss the impact of AI on searching for information on the internet. Now, there are two things we are going to look at. This question is two topics. We'll see it in chapter 1. Types and components of computer system. And under this, you see it under in emerging technology. And then you look at artificial intelligence, right? Emerging technology. Then you also see it in chapter 10. Because of internet, communication, and then uses what? A search engine uses artificial intelligence to help users search for information on the internet. Search engine 2. So we have communication and how to what? Use what? Search engine. You see there. And how to what? Evaluate information. How do you evaluate information found on the internet? So let's look at the first thing. What's even artificial intelligence? Now, artificial intelligence artificial intelligence is a machine or application that performs a task requiring what? Some degree of intelligence. That's artificial intelligence. So they involve in what? Language recognition, decision making, problem solving, and even analyzing what? Data. We're to discuss the impact that AI has on searching for information on the internet. So we can look at positive impact and negative impact. Let's look at this. Let me zoom in. So we have this. Okay. So the positive impact let's look at it. The first one can analyze vast amount of data. So AI can process and analyze very large quantities of information. This is useful for search engine because the internet contains an enormous number of web pages. So AI can help identify which information is most relevant to the user search. The next one can personalize search results. AI can use information about a user preference and previous what? Behavior to help determine which results are likely to be most useful. Right? So AI will now use information about the user's preference, right? So for example, if two users entering similar searches may receive somewhat different results based on their interest. Okay. The next positive impact is can understand natural language. So traditional searching can depend heavily on matching keywords, right? AI can use natural language processing, allowing the system to interpret a user's query in a more human like way. And this can make it easier for users to ask questions naturally rather than trying to what? To guess the exact keywords required. Okay, just add this one. Can make finding relevant information easier by analyzing the user's query and the available information. AI can help identify the most relevant search or the most relevant result. This can reduce the amount of manual searching the user needs to do. Okay, let's look at the negative. Okay, let's look at the first one. AI may return outdated information. So the AI search systems may find or use information from older web page or web pages. Therefore, the user should not automatically assume that the information returned is current. The second negative impact, retrieved information be false or fake news. AI does not automatically make every piece of information on the internet true. If false information exists online and AI assisted search could potentially return it. Therefore, users still need to evaluate whether information is reliable and factually correct. The next one, some websites may be missed. AI may decide that certain websites are less relevant and therefore not present them. Consequently, A useful website could be overlooked by the user. So what we are trying to say here is that AI can make searching faster, more personalized, more natural. But it does not mean everything returns, that everything is going to return is automatically what? Correct. Question 9b. One of the benefits of using search engine is the speed of finding relevant information. Explain why it is not always the case. Include in your answer how this can be improved. So we're still looking at what? This is chapter 10, communication, effective use of the internet, use of search engines. And then you look at it in evaluating information. So the user, so we need to now explain why this is not always the case. Include in your answer how this can be improved. So let's look at it. Information overload. Right? A search can return millions of results. The user then has to walk through a huge number of pages to identify the relevant information. And this can make the process slow rather than fast. The search engine may not return. He said this is not always the case. So it's not always, we're simply saying that it's not always the case that you are finding information is you're going to have this, you're going to have that speed. No, not always the case, right? So search engine may not return the most relevant sites first. Okay, so search engine rank results according to the algorithm. So the most useful web page may not appear on the first page. So how can this be improved? Okay, let me add one more. Why it's not always the case? The search criteria may be too broad. So if the user enters a vague search term, the search engine may return many results that are only loosely what? Related to the actual requirement. So if you search something like ICT now, ICT is extremely broad. User will receive a huge number of results from Ajiro Tech and all that, right? Okay, how can the search be improved? How can we improve on it? Now let's look at this. How can we improve it? You have to narrow the search criteria. Use more specific search terms. So instead of ICT, right? You can use something like this. I don't know if I'm writing it, right? So you can use like maybe Cambridge, IGCSE, ICT YouTube channel. If you're looking for YouTube channel, right? Ajiro Tech. Right? So this gives you the search, this gives the search engine more information about what the user actually wants. Okay, there are other ones. Let me use this page. So number two, we what? Use more keywords, right? So adding relevant keywords can reduce irrelevant results. Okay, number 3, be concise and precise. What do you mean by that? The search should clearly describe the information required rather than using vague wordings. Okay. A database contains a primary key. State 4 characteristics of a primary key. So we're going to see this in chapter 18, databases, right? Now, under databases, you see it on creating or create a database structure. And you would exploit under, um, types of database, flat file and relational. You see it under relational. Relational database. When data is stored in more than one linked table, then you start talking about those key fields. So a primary key is used to hold unique data. So what is a primary? Let me just explain this. Is a field in a database table, whose value uniquely identifies each record, right? So in a student table, we know that student ID is the primary key, right? So state 4 characteristics of the primary key. So one characteristic is that what? The data is unique. That simply means that no two records should have the same primary key value, right? So example, you see, like, for example, student ID underscore ID, you have what? 001. This is unique to that student. It cannot be assigned to another student, record. So this uniqueness allows the database to identify exactly which record is being referred. Are we together? The next one is okay, only one primary key field can be in a table. Okay, so a table has one primary key field, although that key consists of a combination of fields in more advanced database structures. I'm just writing this because of, I'm an AS teacher. I'm AS and A-level teacher. So we'll talk about primary key. We are also will call compound or composite key, but it's out of your syllabus for IGCSE. You don't need it. You don't need it. Right? So just know that only one primary key field can be in a table. Okay. The next one. Let me do this. Let me clean this one. And put 3 here. Okay. So this is what? It identifies a record. So the primary key is used to identify to identify a particular record. Right? So it identifies the record. So if you have a student ID that is 001, the database knows exactly which student record is required. Okay. I think I can do this for 4. Okay. It contains a value. So a primary key must contain an actual value. It cannot simply be left empty. The value is required so that the record can be uniquely identified. Okay. So when it comes to primary key, they are just unique identifiers to for a record. Okay. Thank you so much for learning with me. Oh my goodness. It's been, this is this is I am exhausted. I am exhausted. Okay, what do I say? All right, subscribe to his YouTube channel if you have not done so. Subscribe to his YouTube channel if you have not done so. And join our student Discord community, right? You can use this link or this link to be a part of our amazing community. And if you're having any challenge in any subject, please do well to enroll in our private tuition classes, whether it's ICT, math, chemistry, physics, biology, right? Well, we have expert tutors to guide you through the process. Thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in our online private tuition ICT class. Bye for now.